In this video, I'm going to show you why backtesting is one of the most important things you can do as a trader. It's not the most important, but it's one of the most important things you can do as a trader. Not only does it give you a chance to identify your edge, but it gives you a chance to purposely train your mind to think a different way. Why do I say that? Because you could easily go on the chart and when I show you, if you don't know what back testing is, let me just pull the chart. If you don't know what back testing is, all back testing is replaying previous price action. So this is Monday, April 14th. So I'd be able to hit replay and I would be able to go back to when nothing happened before it. I can't see anything that happened before it. Now, if you honestly really didn't care about your craft and you wanted to take a shortcut, then of course you could just only backtest your edge or what you identify as your edge of when it works out, and that's fake validation, right? That's not real. So to be intentional with your system and your rules and your protocols and not change your approach just because you saw it didn't work out because you were backtesting, that's not going to prepare you for the live market. And so if you approach it that way, it could have an inverse effect, right? It could put you in positions where you're approaching it that same way you did when you were backtesting, because all you did when you were backtesting was just conditioning yourself to react a certain way. And so it would make no sense, honestly, for you to approach it that way. That would be a waste of time approaching backtesting that way. But today in this video, I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to show you one example, one quick example of my edge working out in my favor. Like I'm going to show you what it looks like when it works out. And this is something that I've back tested plenty of times. Um, and then I'm going to show you the entries I took, right? And one thing that the market requires from you is to be adaptable. And so on those entries, I had a particular target price, but there were other factors that I could have accounted for to collect my profit at a certain point, because you can never go broke doing what? Taking profit. Can never go broke doing so. So I'm gonna show you for this particular strat, and this is my chart right here. This is um what I trade with in the morning, right? And so we're on UJ. We're gonna be looking at UJ. So the two pairs I like to trade, UJ and GJ, two pairs I like to trade right now. And then gold, but I do that for my futures account. Um, and so for this particular, my approach to this, my system for this is the VWAP. And so what I'm looking for is decision making levels. If we're buying, price is above the VWAP and I have buyer's volume on my MACD, right? So I just want price above this black line, that's the VWAP. And then I want some buyer's volume from my MACD. Right now, this is not buyer's volume. This is not what I want to see. I want to see something like this, a white candle. Preferably, what would be nice is a green dot with because that'll start these white candles, or the buyer's candles. This is not a good time to enter. Um, but that was just giving you context. And so I'm not going to get into the meaning behind the VWAP, but just one thing that you'll notice, if you've seen my video on decision making levels, um, it also it talks to this VWAP as well. So that should tell you enough if you've seen my video on decision making levels, or if you maybe you used that in the past. Like this is not like I've reinvented the wheel. I've just identified something when it comes to that, right? And how it talks with other areas and key levels of price. But yeah, I'm not going to go into detail on the meaning behind the VWAP. I think I did in another video, but maybe not. Anyways. So that's what I'm looking for, and I'm okay finding that. Ideally, what has to happen is I have to have the 15-minute above the VWAP. I have to have the 15-minute price candle. So right now, this current price. So you see that? That's how crazy them. I'm not crazy, but you just have to be aware of that stuff with the market, right? Because on the 5 minute, right, it looks like we're above. Actually, it doesn't, but we've broken above. We can say we've broken above. But on the 15, we're still below the VWAP. So I would be waiting for it to get above or below either one. And now we can think about fundamentals. Decision making levels are big ones. So you see we're on a decision making level right now. And so for me, I would want to see it break above this decision making level, and then I would have a buy, and then I would have my stop loss at the VWAP, right? So when the 15-minute candle closes below the VWAP, then that's when my stop loss will hit, and I'd be out of this trade. And so now this is not a decision making level. This is just an area that I saw where I wanted to potentially enter a sell. And so I would like to take this to the decision making level, right? So I got this decision making level up here on my 15-minute. That would be my buy and sell entry right there. Now, that's just how I would enter. Something I've seen happen over and over again. Um, the other system I trade is our VXT strategy, which I did a video on as well, just a part of it, as well as it's something that you can access in our community. All you gotta do is sign up with your emails. You don't pay anything, it's no cost or anything like that. And that's what I use alongside of this. And so I will wait for price to break above there if I was going to enter a buy. And if I was going to enter a sell, I would need price to close below I'd probably say this low here, right? Just because we don't need to get caught up in any type of reversals or anything like that. Um, so I would like price, and depending on how it attacks this level too, like depending on how it attacks this level what could change how I would enter that one, right? Like I might just let it fall and then wait for the correction. But then again, this is why I said that I have another strategy, because it's an adaptable to trend changes and breakouts, right? Versus something like this, I consider this more like positional trading. But there's other factors I'm considering than just the indicator, right? Like I'm looking at inefficiencies. I'm thinking about fundamentals, my key levels, right? Market session, and so those four are probably the main things that I'm thinking about, along with what is price telling me, right? Liquidity areas and just stuff like that, because the market flows in cycles. That's one thing I'm learning more, where the market moves in cycles, right? But anyways, I'm going down another different rabbit hole. This would be what I'll be looking for on this entry, right? So about 63 pips on this one that I risk on a sell, but to gain somewhere around 95, right? So that's my 1.5 to 1 entry. And then on this side here, let's see what my 1.5 will look here. Let me just do that for the sake of it. I'm gonna do both on the 1.5 to 1 entry because I've spoken to that before. Um, but I would not mind it's my target area being a decision making level, because those are areas I'm normally targeting for my take profit. And maybe it's something I need to optimize is having two take profits, which used to take partials, so I would take some of my profit out on the way up or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I'm thinking, because. My decision making levels are I'm all in for those, and just in the magnet like nature of decision making levels. But I do also see that sometimes it doesn't reach it all the way. There's a signal within our MACD that I could have identified to determine, okay, this is the time to take my profit. But let me get into it. I know that was somewhat of a long intro, but let me show you now what this would look like. Because I actually don't remember. I don't know what price did from here. All right, so we sold, broke up. All right. So you're probably like, all right, we got a break there. That's an entry. Honestly, yeah, I would like that. I would like that entry. Like, I would take that buy right there. I know we got our 15-minute above, right? We got our 15-minute above. We got some buyer's volume on our MACD back, right? This decision making level, we've closed above that area, right? And so if you look at that, isn't that crazy? On the 5-minute, there's a decision making level, and at that same area. There's also one on the 15-minute. That's the original one we marked up. So those two combined, and then we also bought from this area, right? Like we broke this area. Like I love that entry. right? I would love that entry. I would take that. We can say entry point at the top here, stop loss below the decision making level, because what is there again? This is on the 5 minute. There's also one right here. But I would choose this one because originally I would choose the VWAP. But since that is there, I will take the low of that. Right. So now I'm risking 31 pips. Let's go for the 1.5 to 1 to get 47. Let's see what happens. Boom. Clean. Right. That's clean. That was what? 3:20 to 6 a.m. So about 2.5 hours, right? And what did price do? It moved right to that decision making level, right? And so that's actually how I'm gonna start playing that. That would be a 1.5 to 1 on that entry, but then I would have some more running, right? And then take it to my decision making level. But then we see a very strong rejection after we break that area. Uh, which just also confirms again, first of all, the way price moves in cycles and how the decision making levels really communicate those cycles after we've already started moving in a particular direction, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, drop it in the comments and I'll break it down in another video. But that's boom, that would have been our money right there. And so rewind it if you have to, but remember what I just said about what I was looking to enter, why I was looking to enter, and I'll recap it real quick. So, on our 15-minute time frame, I had this decision-making level here, right? This decision-making level was ultimately the determining factor for if we were going to stay below it. Then I was waiting for price to break this area for us to take a sell, but we see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of rejection at that level, and then we also had our VWAP telling us, okay, if price stays below this area or if price holds above, that's also going to change whether we are looking for a buy or sell. And so we end up getting our break. You could have viewed this on the 15 minute, you could have viewed it on the 5 minute, but we ended up getting our break on this candle of that decision making level, right? That would have been our entry point. Our stop loss would have been below this decision making level here, right? And then our take profit would have been a 1.5 to 1 risk to reward. Or, as I mentioned in just a minute ago, the decision making level at this level, right? 5 minute decision making level. And I believe there's a 15 minute up here. Yeah, there's a 15 minute. So you could have took it to the top of that 15 minute decision making level. And I'm not just saying the top of it just because price hit it. That's how I play my decision making levels. I wanted to move to that level. And I could have said we could attack this high here with this wick, but I'm okay with just attacking the previous high or the previous low, depending on which direction we are moving, right? Will it hit it every single time? I haven't tested every single time, so I can't tell you that it will or will not. But what I will tell you is I've seen price move to those areas time and time again. Okay. And so now that you know what I'm looking for, right? I'm gonna go to my the first entry I took that I want to show. Right, the first entry that I took that I want to show, and we're gonna make first of all, we're gonna make sure I follow my rules. That's the first one. This is why I love backtesting. In the moment when you lose a trade, it sucks. Who likes to lose money, right? Who like enjoys it? I'm able to pull lessons from it, in abundance. However, that doesn't mean I enjoy losing. I hate losing more than I love winning, right? So when you lose a trade and then you backtest it, and when you're backtesting, you see you didn't follow your system. It almost takes some of the pressure off of the technical aspect of it, and it just by default it just means it's psychologically, and then that has to do with you and something you have direct control over, right? Something you can literally control in the moment, right? And so that's why I love backtesting, right? Because it's gonna make you it's just gonna hold you accountable. So this is the 15 minute. Per the 15 minute time frame, I do have and I entered on this candle. So if we go back here, right, this is the candle I entered on. Boom. right? That's the candle I entered on. So if you go on the 5 minute, then it looks like a different candle. But that's the candle I entered on. So we see on the 15 that price is above our VWAP, which is good, right? That's good. Let's go down to the 5 minute. And hold on, let me say something real quick. So on the 15, I do notice what don't I have? What don't I have on my 15 minute, which is a stronger time frame. So everything that it's gonna be everything that this chart this screen right now is gonna be telling me, it's gonna be stronger on the 15. It's gonna be stronger on the 30. It's gonna be stronger on the hour. Like that's how price works, right? Because the smaller time frames make up the larger picture, right? The larger picture doesn't make up the smaller picture, right? And so I don't like that. Like seeing that I entered a trade and it looks like this. Like I don't like that. That I get frustrated. Like honestly, when I do this and it's me not following my system, I truly get frustrated. But it just tells me how much work I have to do up here and how it's just a never-ending process. So no matter where you think you are, it's a never-ending process of making sure you are in complete control of what's going on up here. And so seeing that. Yuck, right? And so let's go down to the 5 minute because that's where I would have executed on the time frame. All right, so let's look at my 5 minute and what don't I have? What am I looking for and what don't I have? So I have decision making levels within this area, right? So I have that one there, right? Let's take a look at my 15 minute. Let's take a look at my 15 minute decision making levels. No, but this area, right? So this entire area, this is what I just showed this example. Oh no, I didn't. Okay, here it is. Look, look. See, that's why you just gotta take a second and look. Decision making level, boom, in this area. And yes, I know we've broken below and we've broken above and broken below, whatever the case may be, but there's a reason this is here. There's a reason this structure is at this level where we got all this action, right? And so this is fine. Like seeing price move above this level. Since we've broken it more than once, I'm not necessarily waiting for it to close above the high of this level like I was on the example. Um, and so this where we're at on this decision making level is different from the example I showed. But even after that, what don't I have still? I don't have buyer's volume. So Marcus, why did you even enter this trade? That's type so. I don't have buyer's volume, and what that tells me is I was trading outside my system. Period. For whatever reason, whatever analysis I had is fine fundamentally. I was trading outside my system, point blank, period, on that entry. But that's funny. But you know what's so funny about this? Is I still have the opportunity to take profit, right? But because I was trading outside of my system, I wasn't looking for that. Right? So my entry came there. Stop loss was probably somewhere around here. And if I would have had my 1.5 to 1 risk to reward, right, that would have been my take profit. So let's see what happens on this 5 minute. Boom. And that's where I got stopped out somewhere over here. Yep, right there. And we see that price was what is that? That's not even that's like 5 pips. 5 pips away from my take profit. And so what ended up happening? If I take this off replay, that's where I took an L. I took an L right there. Boom. Right on this candle right here. Right here. See that? That's where I took the L. But I had the chance to take profit. However, it was 1:20 in the morning and I was asleep. This was a trade that I took at 10 o'clock at night. Just around 10. And I set my stop loss, set my take profit, and I just went to sleep. There's many times I've done that same thing, and I wake up to take profit triggered versus stop loss triggered, right? But that's just the nature. That's like the game of probabilities right there. I just show you an example where I'd actually, so two things. Yes, that is about the probabilities. However, that was not my system because I didn't have buyer's volume. If I'd had buyer's volume, different story. No buyer's volume, I can't really like I don't feel good about if it hit the TP, and I feel better about it now that it did hit my stop loss because it was not my system, right? Kind of how that just takes some of the pressure off of the technical aspect of it. And it's like I can control that. Like so that's me. Like that's on me. You know what I'm saying? Uh, and so I'm gonna show you another example, right? And I was gonna show you where we could have taken profit on this one, but since we didn't follow the system, I wasn't looking for that, so I'm not even going to show that. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to show it on this one right here. Let's take a look at the 15 minute. All right, so my 15 minute. So these three entries over here, this first one is not an entry. That's my sell from this buy. That's basically my trade getting closed out. All right, let me get rid of that. But this is I took an entry here on this candle. I took two entries because I did the wrong lot size on the first one. So I took two entries right there, basically. And we have price below our VWAP, perfect. I have seller's volume, perfect on the 15 minute money, right? Money, that's money. I love that. Love to see that. I got some inefficiencies in price action, so some imbalance in price over here. It's overbought in this area, so that's a good target area. So I like this. I like this trade here. But I not, and even if we take the what is that entry? 120, 142, 333 is my entry. 142, 333. So that was my entry. Stop loss, right? Right at the VWAP, 21 pips. If I do my 1.5 to 1, what would it have done? I mean, we see it now. We're gonna replay it, but what would it have done? It would have hit my TP. So the fact that I took a L on this, what does that tell me? Because this, let's watch it real quick. So that was 6 in the morning, so that was a New York session. Done by about 7:20. And what does that tell me? Because I followed my system. I had price below our VWAP. We were moving off a decision-making level away from it. Seller's volume, money, 1.5 to 1 risk to reward. What does that tell me? That tells me I was greedy. I was looking for more in that on that trade, right? I didn't have my take profit set, right? Those two things. And I can say it didn't follow my system because the 1.5 to 1 risk to reward based off of the back testing that I've done, that is part of my system, having at it that as my take profit. But what I said earlier, I'm gonna optimize that moving into next week, and I'm gonna have two take profits. So I'm gonna have my 1.5 to 1, and then I'll let some run to my next decision making level or target area. But we see that would have hit, right? And what happened instead, because I was looking for more, I got hit my stop loss. Both trades got closed out in an L, right? So I lost 20 pips on both of those trades. So it's just the nature of the game, you know? It's just the nature of the game. But what I want to show you too, this is a good example, is we can use this MACD to let's say you don't want to do a 1.5 to 1 or anything like that. You just want to kind of take it to a point to where you think price may turn around because you don't know. It's purely speculation. Because there are times where I'm about to show you where I do take my profit and then it keeps going, right? And so, but we're not like we can't we can't exhaust every single trade. I always refer to that term. We can't exhaust every single trade, right? So if a trade moves 200 pips, if you expect to get 100% of that movement, then you're not being realistic, right? 60%, 75%, of course, the higher the is the objective. But we actually the objective should be what has the greater probability, right? And what I've seen is the 1.5 to 1. And now that changes based on my stop loss, right? So if my stop loss is 60 pips, then a 1.5 to 1 is going to be more profit, right? You see what I'm saying? So this stop loss and my take profit combined with my entry system, they all work together. You know what I'm saying? And that's something I've seen over and over again, right? And so what I could have done on the 5 minute, I would have like I want to look I want to see it on the 15 minute is the most important because of what I said a minute ago. What did I say, Marcus? What did you say? Repeat it. We didn't hear. I said The higher the time frame, the stronger the price action and the stronger of what everything on this screen is showing, right? So when my MACD is getting fresh volume, that is stronger than when the 5 minute is getting fresh buyer's volume, right? And so on and so and the higher you go. And so when I get one of these on either side, that indicates in this case buyers becoming weak potentially and sellers becoming weak potentially, right? That's what that indicates. Buyers becoming weak and sellers becoming weak. Anytime you see the gray, not the black or the white, just the gray on either side, right? And so on this entry, right? And if you pay attention to, we talk about this in our course, so I'm not going to get into it too much. But just like the relativity, based on where this line is, this signal line, like just relatively speaking, right? Just pay attention to that. Sometimes and just treat that like key levels. Key levels on the charts. There's key levels down here too, right? Just look at it. Just back test it. Don't take my word for it, right? Back test it. But you'll see on this next candle, what do we get? We get that weak seller's candle, right? And so at this point, you could take your profit. You could take it. That is your signal. When you see that, that's your signal to take profit. You see it happen over here. Strong buy trend. Strong buy move, right? Right off on a 15-minute order block, right? 100 pips, money, right to the decision making level, money, right? But then what do we get? The very next candle, weak buyer's volume. What ends up happening? Price ends up correcting that whole move, right? And yeah, it moved up, but that's you're mad that you missed out on how many pips? 30, 25. When that was how long was that move? 100 pips. So 110 pip move versus 130, you got somewhere around 80% of that move. Pretty good, pretty, pretty clean move right there, right? And so let's recap. Let's recap. Let's recap. What did we go over today? We went over what I'm looking for to enter. This wasn't about like my strategy at all. But I just had to show you that for context. The main point behind it was what? But my voice just cracked. The main point behind it was what? To backtest. To backtest, because what did we see just now? What did backtesting, that one entry, those two do for me just now? It just told me that I didn't follow my system. I acted out of greed, right? Those two things, lack of discipline, right? And what I can control literally all of those. It has nothing to do with the market, it has nothing to do with the tariffs, it has nothing to do with the fundamentals and the inflation, and it has nothing to do with any of that. It has nothing to do with any of that. It had everything to do with me not the trade that I showed you that I took an L on. I did not follow my system. There was no buyer's volume. That's what we looked at. There was no buyer's volume, right? I showed you an example of where and I moved into profit on that buy. And then I showed you my sell example of when I did follow my system, but did not set my take profit to the 1.5 to 1 ratio, which is part of my system. Instead, took an L, right? The second one has to do with profit. So why didn't I put the 1.5 to 1? Probably because I looked at it and said, man, I want the big move. I want the banger on this one, right? Probably because I was upset at the previous trade. Because that was right after, if you saw it on my chart, right? I took that trade, I took that trade right after I got closed out. Right after I got closed out, I took two more trades. So honestly, this was a revenge trade. Despite my system being valid and being here, this was a revenge trade. Because if it was not a revenge trade, I would have approached it the same way I'm supposed to approach my system, and I had the 1.5 to 1 risk to reward setup, right? Versus trying to target, I was probably targeting this area. That's most likely the area I was targeting, right? Just because I wanted more, right? And it just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. And it may work out sometimes. That's the thing. The first trade I took that was not part of my system worked out. But what is that helping? What is that training? That is training you to have an inconsistent habit pattern. That's a contradiction in itself. An inconsistent habit pattern, right? Habits and patterns are supposed to be consistent. But no, the way that we're reacting, if we're approaching it the way I just showed you, the way I approached it, is going to build inconsistencies. And I just wanted to show the example because it's a never-ending journey. Like no matter when you get to that point, when you think you've arrived, you cannot lose sight of what you need to control the most, and that's the discipline in following our systems, right? The emotional intelligence. It's all of that that is required of you if you want to be a consistently profitable trader. So I wanted to show that example because I know we can all relate to that. I know we can all relate to that. And so on this journey to being a consistently profitable trader, consistently reminding myself to think in probabilities, follow my system, control what I can control. And with VXT, it's just a matter of time. EHM trades, I'm out.